Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to the newest episode of Semi-Pro Film Show. I am your host, Dalton Barrett. Joining me today is Joshua Clements and Bobbin, and today we're going to talk about The Incredible Hulk Returns. I will say off the bat, I am disappointed.
Yeah.
I will
Maybe
say I am not because I didn't see the other one.
this holds no candle, and I mean none whatsoever, to the Trial of the Incredible Hulk. If you've seen this movie and haven't watched the Trial of the Incredible Hulk because you saw this movie, please do not do so, because the Trial of the Incredible Hulk is much better.
Uh, yeah.
I can't attest to that because I've not yet seen Trial of the Incredible Hulk. But this was as good as I imagine an episode of the Incredible Hulk starring Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno would have been.
Louis Vargino. No, the show was good. The show was good. The show was better than this, I think.
I'm not saying this was bad. I'm saying this was, in my mind, as good as the 3 episodes of the show that I've actually watched.
But going back to what Dalton said, we had, and Josh was not here last week. We had Daniel, but we raved about Trial of the Incredible Hulk for that whole hour, because it was genuinely so surprisingly good. And then we were like, oh yeah, we're gonna watch the rest of the movies because this was so great. And then this was shock. This was shock.
I mean,
Shock
genuinely,
is the best word for it. Yeah.
we barely paid attention. I'm gonna be honest. This movie was fun to watch with a group of buddies, but I don't think I would ever want to watch this alone, if that makes sense.
We just finished watching it, and I still don't really know who the antagonist of the movie was.
Oh, that's good, Josh, because you're breaking down the plot for us today.
Oh,
We'll get to
joy!
that in a
I
moment.
know 2 plot points. I got this.
It's so interesting to compare this to the movie that came after it, because this was the first movie that came after the show ended. And I will say this movie does a much better job at replicating the flow of the series as a movie. This does just feel like a higher budget version of every episode of the show, whereas Trial felt more like its own sort of thing. Like it felt more like a Thor, or no, I'm sorry, a Daredevil Hulk crossover movie. This didn't really feel like that. It kind of did at times. I don't know. It's interesting and it's different. I don't think I'm disappointed off the back of what was one of the best Marvel crossover movies to then have this, which just left me sad.
Yeah, man, I love Good Luck Charlie.
It should be noted off the bat, the father from Good Luck Charlie, Michael Clark Duncan, plays
That's
Thor.
his name. Yeah, it's Michael Clark Duncan. He went through a bit of a change in his life from this movie to Good Luck Charlie.
Hold on now.
He went through a bit of a change from this to Daredevil to Good Luck Charlie, but he's good.
Kind of
what's the guy's
Bruce
name?
Banner went through a change between the comic books and this television series.
Kind of like how Thor went through a change to the comic books to this television series, which adapted him horribly.
I like the change. We'll get to that in a minute. But
Right.
yeah, just initial thoughts. I mean, we just watched this.
We just
I
watched it.
will,
It is
I'd like to
complete
note
shock.
that I'm not well, again, we'll talk about it, but the changes and my opinion about this movie isn't as strong as Trial because I don't think any of us like Thor as much as we like Daredevil. So that's something to note, I guess.
Probably so. I don't know. I haven't read a ton of the comics. I do really like what the MCU has been doing with Thor, where he's like the kind of I don't know. I like goofy Thor more than I like serious Thor, and he's kind of that in this. I don't know. We'll get into the plot as we go. It,
Good thing
It's
that Josh knows this plot by heart and
the
will
thing
break
is,
it down in
I actually
incredible detail.
I think I'm gonna be able to better than you believe in me. Uh,
All right, we'll see. We'll
good thing
see.
I don't believe in you at all.
but no, the movie's just it's very schlocky. It is the quintessential backdoor pilot to
It's
any
what
TV show
I
in the late
thought.
80s.
It's what I thought Trial was gonna be.
Yes,
Right.
this
It is
this
exactly what you think this movie is.
this is what I expected the movie we watched last time with Daredevil to be. It's just about Thor and not Daredevil. So, Josh, why don't you go ahead and start with the plot of this movie?
So it takes place. I can't remember if they mention a time period between when the Incredible Hulk show ended and when this started. But it kind of takes place with a little recap, breaks down what happened to David Banner, and says that he has since died and he's living out as a hidden man. He has changed his name to David Banyan or David Banyan. Uh, and he is apparently living out in LA in a beachfront house with his new girlfriend, Dr. Shaw, that's her name, uh, who they are both incredibly horny when they wake up and they talk to each other and he says that she smells delicious and then they go off to their jobs where they both work at an institute where I think David Banner works underneath his girlfriend. But he's working on this big old like this machine that they're just about to unveil to the press.
It's a
And
machine that hopefully will cure him of his hulkenness.
right, he hopes that it's going to cure him of hulkenness. I don't know what the rest of the people think it's going to do, but he's intentionally like he's trying to shove off all of the media attention to other people. He's like, no, no, take credit for my work because he doesn't want people to realize, hey, that's that guy who turns into a giant green monster, and his name is exactly the same as it was before. Uh,
Right.
and
Well, no, it's not the same. His name is David Banyan,
David
and
Bannon.
his
Yeah,
real
no,
name
it's a different guy.
is David Banner. So there's a difference here, Josh.
Yeah, okay. Um, so he's in the lab with his machine. He's testing it out, and he's got a nice little old fashioned recorder going. He's documenting his experiment. He's like, I'm finally going to be free. I don't have to worry about this anymore. This horrible creature that's plagued my life. And as he's doing it, someone starts breaking into the lab. Which when we were watching, we were trying to.
Yeah, hold on. I'd like to say, if you're not about to say it, that we had kind of a bet on who this mystery character
Right.
was, and
Yeah.
Dalton
Correct.
was very wrong. Hee hee. Everyone laugh at Dalton.
laugh
Everyone
at this
laugh.
laugh at this user for incorrectly thinking this man was a thief.
Bobbin had
Um,
no opinion. Josh,
I
you
no,
thought
yeah,
he was a thief. You just thought the
if I
thief
yeah, I had no
was Donald
opinion, so I'd
Blake.
win no matter what.
yeah. So the earlier in the movie, when they're talking about the machine, there's the guy who runs the institute and his little brother. His little brother, who looks kind of like a 1980s version of Matt Smith. So at the beginning, Don was like, "Oh, that guy's definitely going to be either the villain or Donald Blake," because there's one camera shot where it like lingers on him a little bit too long. So when this guy starts breaking into the lab, we were saying maybe this guy's Donald Blake. Dalton thought he was a thief. Incorrect. So he breaks into this lab where
To be fair,
uh
you also thought he was a thief. You just thought the thief was Donald Blake.
yeah. Well, I didn't sure. But he sneaks in while David's trying to test this machine on himself and it's counted down and he decides to interrupt the experiment. I guess because he thinks David's gonna try and off himself using the machine and he needs to ask him questions. He goes, "Hey, you might remember me from 15 years ago. I was sitting in a lecture room at a university you gave a speech to." And immediately David Banner goes, "Oh, yes, I know you. You're Donald Blake." And then this his social security number so that everyone knows who he is. And he wants to talk to him. he knows that he fakes his death. Does he know that he's a Hulk? Like, does he know
He
that
doesn't
beforehand?
know that he's the Hulk. He just knows that he faked his death and wants to figure out why.
Why? Yeah. Okay. And he wants his help with something because he seems like a nice guy. Uh, because Donald Blake recently went hiking in like the Norwegian mountains or whatever.
Well, he was an archaeologist. They established that he was an archaeology slash scientist. Like he did archaeology, but he also studied ancient remains.
Yeah, and he finds this one cavern that has a an old Viking coffin inside of it. And during this expedition, he finds this old hammer, which I like the look of Mjolnir in this. You pointed out that it looks like an actual relic from ancient Viking times,
It
where it's kind of like rusted almost.
it's kind of cool how with the Thor stuff in this, they not only base it off of the comic books, but they also base it off of the North mythology. It's a
Well,
neat contrast to what we see in modern Thor, which is just comic booky nonsense, which I enjoy. I enjoy the comic booky nonsense, but it's neat to do that contrast with like the actual mythology as part of what makes the design or makes the character, all of that stuff. It's really kind of neat to see those two contrasts.
yeah. And so he finds it. He pulls out the hammer, and it summons Thor. It doesn't. So in the comics, Donald Blake is like it's just an alter ego that Thor uses so that he can go about unnoticed during the day. But in this, they're two entirely separate people with entirely separate lives who are just connected by this hammer. Um,
Which I will
so
say, Bobbin didn't
it,
like. He made that
I'm a fan.
clear. I'm a huge fan.
I
In the same way that I'm a fan of the way they did MCU Thor, which was he doesn't have any sort of
like
alter
alter
ego.
ego.
Like, because
No,
it doesn't make sense for Thor to come down to Earth as Thor and just pretend to be a nobody. Like, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So I really like this idea that, like, they're just connected.
yeah,
And he can
they
summon him like a genie in a bottle whenever
well
he wants.
they later explain that Thor is connected to him because Odin has made Don Thor's guide into the mortal world. Uh, which is it's a unique take. I like it a lot. It's definitely like you can see why they did it. If you wanted a Thor show, you couldn't just have him transform to Thor and then have no one to talk to at that point. So it makes sense that they kind of made it a buddy cop dynamic. But I like it. They have nice chemistry together. Uh,
I think perhaps it is very goofy and weird.
that's just because you
It's
hate. That's
less
just because you
goofy.
hate Michael Clark Duncan.
It's less goofy and weird than Thor pretending to have an alter ego. Like that. Like yes, it's goofy and weird. It's less goofy and
Think of
weird than
Thor
Thor
with
pretending to be
a
a human being.
no. See, I disagree with that because what's Thor gonna do on a day-to-day basis? Let's
Nothing.
You
be
know,
He's
real.
be
not. That's
Thor.
the
Be
point.
Thor.
Like he's not going to do anything. There's nothing for Thor to do. So him pretending to be a human being just doesn't make any sense comparatively. Him having him being
A nerd.
summoned like a genie, him having a nerd who he can just talk to is fun, I think.
Um, and also this plays into the plot quite a lot. As soon as Thor is summoned, he is without a doubt a complete idiot, and
Well,
he
we assumed it at this point that it was going to be like Thor and Don Blake, they're it's like Hulk. Like he summons Thor and he becomes a different person and then he
right.
disappears when Don Blake comes back. Like we thought they were going to straight up do the Hulk thing with him, but they didn't. They literally had it like it's a genie. He rubs the
He
magic
sticks
hammer.
around.
He
Yeah,
We
rubs the
thought it was
magic
going to
hammer.
be like Shazam, but it
Correct.
turns out
right.
it's
It's less Shazam and more Kazam with Shaq.
That's a good one. Nice one. Nice niche reference.
Nice reference
all,
that no one's going to
all,
understand.
all my Kazam heads out there are going to be really proud of that one. Kazam coming next week. But they he gets summoned, and his first thought is just like, "Hey, where's a place that I can drink? I'm hungry and I'm thirsty, and I want women and mead and ale." And so he starts beating up David Banner because he's just like, oh, this nerd here, I don't like him. And then he throws him. No, he accidentally pushes him into some like electrical equipment, and David Banner gets shocked, and I guess technically would die from that. And this is it. This is the reemergence of Hulk, and he comes out and he does the same flex about 6 times because they didn't have anything that he could destroy in the room.
It should be noted that in this movie, it's the first time David Banner has hulked out in 2 years.
Right, which I didn't realize at the time, but he credits that to his girlfriend. Like he pictures her in his mind, and that makes him feel more calm, so he keeps it down that way.
Which doesn't play into the plot at all
No,
after
not at all.
the
It's
scene where he mentions that 15 minutes ago.
right, and then he that's it. The woman basically ceases to exist until about 45 minutes later in the movie. So Hulk and Thor have like a I hesitate to call it a fight scene. It's a kerfuffle is the technical term. It's basically it's basically Thor Ragnarok. It's as good as Thor Ragnarok. I think hating on Taika Waititi is the big thing now, so I'm gonna just keep dissing Thor Ragnarok and saying it's as good as a 1980s TV movie. During which Hulk jumps down off of a building, and it's a really
Hold
good
on.
looking stunt.
What did you just say?
Hulk jumps down off a building.
Before that,
No, I said my piece. Uh, Hulk jumps off of a building onto a very obvious crash mat that they conveniently forget to move out of frame, so you can see a big white cushion at the bottom of the screen where Lou Ferrigno is landing.
No. Louis Fargino really did jump off that building.
He really did. Just like he really did do the same flex about 6 times because they couldn't have him
Yeah,
fight.
I don't know what's up with that. I guess it's like
Well, I mean,
I don't
okay.
really
I'm not.
remember. I might be just like a signature move his Hulk does, but like it's
Well,
just
no,
a bodybuilder pose. Like
it's because they couldn't actually have them fight, and they also didn't have any like props that he could destroy in the immediate vicinity. So they were just like, flex.
Hulk wastes so much time in this movie just doing that one flex
Just one flex where
when
like you push your arms down and you like curl your back together. And I
yeah.
mean, Lou Ferrigno he's a good looking guy. He looks
Louis
massive in this
Fargino,
movie.
Josh.
Yeah, Louis Frag looks like he's a very big guy. He looks bigger in this movie than I think I ever seen him as the Hulk.
I'm a really big fan of Louis Falafel, but the wig in this one wasn't hidden.
Well, so when they were making this, Louis Firefighter was going like
Okay, sorry.
he was going deaf by the time they were filming this, so they needed a bigger wig so they could cover his ears and subsequently cover the hearing aids that he needs. So then,
Well, it should also be noted that Louis C.K.'s scenes are all shot in slow motion to pad the runtime of this movie.
well, we were debating: was it to pad the runtime, or was it because the producers thought that made him look bigger?
I think it's to pad the runtime.
Louisiana.
The Louisiana trade.
Look, Lucy Flannel did a lot of training for this movie. He did a lot of training for this movie, and I don't want it to go on Dr. Powell.
Linguini Foguini deserves our respect, all right?
He was the first Hulk. He's the best of us.
He still does the Hulk to this day, all right, man?
Rest in
Large
peace.
Farginard deserves what we can give him as respect for being
Man,
the
rest-
Wait
first.
the whole episode, man.
Rest in peace, Lily Fahrenheit. You were the best of us. Yeah. So him. Light
Okay, go
feather,
ahead.
light
Moving
feather,
away from
and
my mic so Josh can talk.
light feather, and Lee Harvey Oswald are fighting uh, in this lab, which eventually breaks down onto a rooftop where the Hulk jumps down, and there's a few security guards and stuff, so they try and take him on. Oh no, that's later in the movie. He just runs off into the night,
Wait,
and
later in the movies in this scene, I thought he fought the Incredible Hulk.
I hate this. I hate this so much.
uh,
All right, Josh, I
Uh,
want you to talk
right,
about the Incredible Hulk Returns, starring Lady and the Tramp.
right, okay. So later on, Littlefinger is running down an alleyway.
Wait, later on? I thought he wasn't in this scene.
He runs off into the night, and he's found in uh, a dirty alleyway where Bruce Bixby, I know that's not his name, but
It's
Bill
neither of his
Bixby,
names.
Bill Bixby, Bruce
David
Bixby,
Banner, the Hulk.
David
right,
Banner,
right.
because Bruce Banner was too gay.
Yes, I know.
As we should
Uh,
explain, in case nobody watched the last episode, they renamed Bruce Banner in the television series to David Banner because they thought the name Bruce Banner sounded too gay. Just so nobody thinks that I'm the one making this up.
he finds like a flannel that's in his perfect size, which is useful.
With
And
flannel.
Before you move on, before you move on, I want to mention that when Bruce Banner, David Banner, very straight David Banner turned into the Hulk, then his pants turned purple, and then when he turned back into David, his pants turned back to
well,
blue.
he changed trousers in between scenes. They didn't
But
show
the
that because they
pants were
couldn't.
ripped. The pants were
Yeah,
ripped.
well, they couldn't afford to show Hulk's donk, but he takes off those trousers and tries on a new pair. Uh, but they also rip as he pulls them up.
Les
Um,
Miserables refused to film the scene in which he took off his pants.
yeah.
Lobby PC.
So then android version of Siri is running down an alleyway, and Don finds him.
What?
Bixby. That's what my phone calls Siri. It's the rip-off version. It's called Bixby. um, he finds he finds Don almost immediately because Thor can smell him. That's a point in the movies that Thor can smell where Hulk is and locates him immediately.
Because Thor has a super sniffer.
Right, exactly. Um,
This was set up for the next movie, which was Wolverine.
oh, that would have been great. I'm a little shocked that they never did that.
Unironically, that's a pretty cool idea.
That is a cool
Yeah, I
idea.
mean,
I think
that
Fox probably had the rights to the X-Men at this point. Because I mean,
yeah.
the X-Men is not long after this, so I would say they already had the rights by the time these movies started coming out. But regardless,
I mean, I think they're also kind of loose with it. The 90s were a wild time.
loose with it. I thought his name was Lou Ferrigno.
During this scene, James Earl Jones is wearing like a casual clothing instead of his Thor outfit.
What?
Yeah, the Thor hoodie.
Yeah, he's wearing like a Thor hoodie with leather pants and
How
the
did-
worst wig
How
that I've
did we
ever
get to
seen.
the point where we call Michael Clark Duncan, aka the guy who plays Mr. Duncan from Good Luck Charlie, aka the actor playing Thor?
Look, we don't get to speak about that after misnaming Leaf Argino at least 6 times. But he's got like a Thor hoodie with leather pants and the worst wig that I've ever seen on, and he looks good. He looks. I like the look of it a lot. His normal.
Michael Clark Duncan looks very good as a Thor. I think actually the
Yeah.
hair is pretty good. I like the hair a lot.
No, I like the design a lot. The Tommy Lee Jones look for Thor is very like favorable. I think in a lot of ways it's very unique. The
How did
costume does
how did we get here?
suffer a little bit because I'm speaking. He's got noodle arms where the costume is too big to facilitate his arms, so they look tiny.
What?
I
No,
don't
his
think
arms are
no, his arms
massive.
look fine. Josh,
Shut
shut up.
up.
Not in the costume. They look
Yes,
tiny.
they
Is
look
my
fine in
problem.
the costume. There's just fluff around it. It looks
They
fine.
don't. Mary Elizabeth Winstead's arms look like noodles.
How? How did we get here? Josh, keep
'Cause his-
going. I do.
his-
I will say I prefer the casual Thor look to the costume Thor look.
Yeah, it goes slightly harder. Um, but Don drives Banner back to work, where we had a disagreement about whether or not they used rear projection or if they were just filming in a car, because it looks fantastic if it's rear projection.
And we messaged Corridor Crew.
I've messaged Corridor Crew, so in theory they should, they'll get back to me in 3 to 5 business days, and they can tell us about whether or not Lou Aniguita
Are you talking about Warmageddon Fartleberry?
Do you
what even is
mean?
that?
Do you mean the last Airbender?
I had to look up a funny word that started with L and F for that one. So
I've
just
got
looked
two.
up-
I've got 2 tabs open. One is words with L and F, and one is celebrities with 3-letter names that I can call Michael Clark Duncan by a different name every time.
But no, we did message the Corridor Crew. So if they do an episode on this movie, it's strictly because of us.
Josh mentioned the corridor.
Yeah, I sent a message to Corridor Crew. So if you see Incredible Hulk Returns pop up in one of their videos in
Thank Josh.
2026, that was me.
And hey, anybody from Corridor Crew, if you want to watch a movie with us, just hit us up. And
we make
we're
the
free.
same joke about every 3 minutes.
Yeah, that's all they do. They just talk about visual effects or whatever.
They've just been talking about subsurface scattering for about 6 years now, and it's done well for them. So I got hope. But so after that, they drive him back to work, where no one questions like what happened and why the lab's in such a state of disarray.
Well, no, Matt Smith / Kyle MacLachlan does question it.
So that's Zach, who is the little brother of the guy who runs the institution.
Except for he's not. We just thought he was for one scene where he calls him brother.
No, they are. That's his little brother.
And then now. Oh, maybe the little brother, the guy who actually runs it. My bad.
Yeah. No, because there's 3 people in this who we weren't entirely sure who they were. There's Josh Lambert, who runs the institution that David Banner works at. His little brother Zach, who is Matt Smith / Dale Cooper, and then Zach is kind of jealous of Josh, so he works with mercenaries led by Gambit himself, Jack LeBoux.
Who, for a moment, both me and Josh thought were the same guy who owns the institution.
Right. They're both just kind of old white men, and they have like the same haircut. So LeFou and Lambert were not the same people.
Though we thought they were.
We thought they were, and also because at one point Zach plays racquetball with this like hardened mercenary leader, and we were like, why would the mercenary leader be playing racquetball? That's something that a rich old CEO does. So after that, they work on repairing the machines that they all broke. And Don talks to David Banner about why he's been burdened with Thor. To which David says the very reasonable thing of, I don't know. You hunted me down and then started speaking to me about this Norse mythology thing that I had no belief in. Ask Thor, you dumbass. Which is admittedly a very valid point. All in all, David seems very tired of Don from the moment he speaks to him, and he just starts chewing him out at any moment. Again, very reasonable. He was living a life of peace in LA. I can't blame him for that.
Well, I can blame him for living peace in LA, but that's a whole
Right.
other discussion.
That's just the most unbelievable part of the movie.
Right. There's a man who turns into a giant green monster. The most unbelievable part is that a man will find peace in Los Angeles.
The most unbelievable part of the movie is that David Banner can afford a beachfront house.
True.
in
Facts.
LA. Uh, so what am I saying? Oh, after this is when Thor goes to the biker club, isn't it?
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, 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 yes. My favorite scene in the movie.
Let's go. The best in the movie, because every time Thor is on screen, he just starts speaking about how he really, 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 really wants to go get food and drink and women. Uh, so he
Well, Don McLean, writer of such songs as My Miss American Pie, summons Thor, and Thor's like, "Look, dude, I know you want help with your problems. I want sex, I want beer, and I want to
I
fight
have
some dudes." Like
I
that's
have
what
been
he says.
trapped in a
He's like, "I
yeah, and
want
he's
sex,
like,
beer, and I want to fight some dudes. Take me to do that, and then I'll give you your answers." And
well, he
so
also says the very reasonable thing of I have been trapped in a hammer where I cannot feel anything, yet I am sentient. It for like 1,000 years, and I'm now free and I want to experience life. And Don's like, ah, all right then.
So he
Um,
takes him to the only place where he can think that he can do all of these things, which is a biker bar.
a seedy biker bar.
So they go there and they have a good time,
Which
and
I
it's
mean,
a
you
fun
did
scene.
you
Like,
pointed out, which is probably very accurate. This was a few years after Terminator 2, so they were probably just trying to replicate that that feel. Um,
I think it's the first Terminator, but yes,
no, because Terminator 2 was 1982 and this was 88.
right. I mean, I think the biker scene is Terminator One.
No, no, it's Terminator 2 because
Is
he
it?
goes in there. Yeah, it's
Or
Terminator
does it
2.
happen in both? I may be wrong.
No, in Terminator 1, he comes across Bill Paxton and his gang of
Yeah, you're right.
futuristic
You're right.
punks,
So this
and
movie's
that's
a
where he gets
knockoff of Terminator Three.
everything before Terminator 3 came out. Uh, it's a rip-off of the worst Terminator. But yeah, so Neil Patrick Harris and
I
Don
wish
are
that
just
was true. I wish it were true that Terminator 3 was the worst Terminator. But
That's not
anyway,
true, Josh.
I know it's not. I have a I don't I have a soft spot for Terminator 3. It was the first Terminator movie I ever saw. Um,
Boo. Boo. Everyone boo Josh. Boo.
uh,
also Terminator 3 didn't come out until 2003. How fascinating is it that between 82 and 2003, which is a 19-year difference, they made a sequel. That's wild. Can we talk about that for a second?
we'll talk about that when the new Terminator movie comes out, so we can watch all 15 Terminator movies. But no, it's odd. I know that Cameron. Oh wait, no, I don't think Terminator 2 was 82. I think Terminator 1 was 81.
Okay,
Oh no,
we have to talk about the Incredible Hulk returns.
No, no, yeah, but I'm talking about something more interesting right now. Uh,
Talk about a
Terminator 2,
movie that interests me.
Terminator 2 was 1992, I think.
So Terminator 2 ripped off this movie.
Yeah, Terminator 2 ripped off this, which is kind of weird because this has a lot of similarities. It has the same biker dude who's in it, but he was just like a generic biker guy. So yeah, so this was after Terminator 1, before Terminator 2, which means there's only 11 years between 2 and 3, which is the same amount of time between 1 and 2.
Which means that this movie ripped off Terminator 2 before that movie came out.
Essentially, yeah. Anyway, back to Lickety Flick. He he, Thor and Don are just in this bar, and it's like a little montage of the two of them drinking, and Thor keeps drinking bigger and bigger glasses, and people are like, "Oh, Thor." Uh,
Thor drinking men.
and then he has an arm wrestling contest with one of the guys, who he easily beats. Meanwhile, a
Because
random
he
woman
is
starts.
Thor.
Right, he is literally the Norse god. Uh,
So Neil Patrick Harris has at least like a whole table full of drinks, right?
Yes.
You're supposed to
yeah,
laugh.
Well,
You're supposed to
he's
laugh. Supposed to laugh. It was
yes.
funny.
I said Neil Patrick Harris. You can't steal my joke, Bobbin.
Too late. I've already done
It's
it.
funny because he drinks his beer from the pitcher instead of from the can or
Ha ha
bottle.
ha.
And
This movie's really funny.
yeah, during this time, a random woman walks over to. I was trying to think of a Don name in my head. Um,
Donald Glover.
Domhnall Gleeson. She walks over to Domhnall Gleeson, and tries to hit on him before her boyfriend sits next to her and reprimands her for cheating and threatens the guy that she was hitting on. Um, before Thor throws a man onto his table, which is another like pretty good stunt.
Yeah, the stunts are good, and I like this scene because it's goofy and it's funny, and it feels like how Thor would react to modern day.
Right, you meant you like you said, it's pretty accurate. Like biker culture now and sort of Nordic Vikings have a lot of similarities between them.
Right, until the Nordic Vikings turned Christian, but we're not going to get into that on this
I
podcast.
feel like a lot of Vikings are Christian.
That this scene would have been cool if it wasn't for this scene when I realized that this movie was not good.
To be fair, Bobbin is correct. This is the scene where I realized this movie's not going to get better than what it has been so far, which was a huge like burden that just weighed on my shoulders.
Man.
So after this, they walk out, and Edgar Allan Poe says, "Finally, you can ask me the questions." to which Don doesn't even really ask any questions. He's just like, "Yeah, I think we should get a cab back." And there's a little gag where he tries to call a cab, but they don't listen to him because he's a scrawny man. And then Thor does it, and they run down 4 people to pick him up. What happens after that? So I think during this part, this is when the mercenaries come to take the transponder, and they run into Hulk because they anger
Running
Bill
to a
Bixby.
loose finger.
They run into Lewis and Thelma, and
Yeah, Laura Croft Tomb Raider kind of goes ham in this scene.
I like that we're moving on from LF to just L.
Well, it's easier. It's it's easier to find.
It's easier.
I'm so sorry, Lou Ferrigno, if you're listening.
Lou Ferrigno is just going to be at home one day, and he's going, people are talking about the Incredible Hulk returns. It's been so long since I've thought about this, and then he just hears us butchering his name for 40 minutes.
It's okay. It's fine.
Am I having another stroke, or is this reality?
I was gonna say he's deaf, so he can't listen to the podcast anyway.
Come on.
That's
hey, no.
Hey,
Lisa,
he's friends
Lisa
with Donald
Kudrow.
Trump.
I think Lisa
fine.
Kudrow has a very good sense of humor, so he'll be very fine with us joking.
Yeah,
about
The
it.
Land Before Time. He's friends with Donald Trump. Who cares what he thinks?
So LeFou beats up all of the mercenaries, and then
Foosball. Okay, sorry.
Abraham
so
Lincoln.
It's not funny anymore. It's not funny anymore.
Shut up. Shut up.
All right, come on, Josh. Tell us about Stuart Little attacking.
So they try to get the transponder, and then Hulk and Thor fight them off. So they try to kidnap Maggie because she's the head of that department. So they go to her home to kidnap her, and they keep thinking, why does this green guy randomly keep showing up whenever we try and get around David Bruce Banner?
The green guy played by Leprechaun 6, Back to the Hood.
I can see you looking at your phone because you were looking up L names of that one.
Man.
Oh, man. This poor guy that we've been bullying for the last 30 minutes. So they fight in slow motion, and they eventually pick up David's girlfriend and put her in a helicopter. So Thor and Hulk jump on the helicopter and do absolutely nothing to it.
It's crazy because I expected like the scene from Civil War where they pulled the helicopter down.
Right, but you're imagining it like a super epic scene where they're both on the ground pulling it down, and it's shot super cool, and it's all like amazing, and then in reality, it's just two guys hanging off a helicopter by their arms like Ken dolls. Uh,
It's Uncle Charlie from Good Luck Duncan and Looney Tunes back in action, just hanging onto the edge of this helicopter, doing nothing.
Yeah.
Like,
They don't attempt to climb up it, and their weight somehow isn't enough to bring it down.
yeah,
Despite
yeah,
there being a Norse god and also the Incredible Hulk.
like
right.
I don't know, and
It's
it doesn't make
bizarre.
any sense, like given the context of what they've established about these two in this show so far. Because in earlier in the show, the news reporter calls them both giants, which makes
Oh,
sense.
right. Periodically, a news reporter who was in the original series keeps popping up to try and expose Hulk, and then adds nothing to the plot. He's like Inspector Clouseau in the Pink Panther, um,
Right. He
and
really
he does
wants,
nothing.
yeah, he wants to take down the Hulk, and it just kind of does nothing. Like, he comes into the scene and disappears, but he calls them both giants, and so here they are hanging onto this helicopter. And it's like you would think the weight of the Hulk itself would bring down the helicopter, but it doesn't. Little Shop of Horrors does nothing to this helicopter.
Right. Well, I will say this is the scene where Lawrence of Arabia looks the biggest, and he does absolutely nothing for it.
Yeah, Last
Um,
Action Hero, he really disappoints me here.
like L.A. Confidential should have been much better than he was in the scene. So after this scene, the mercenaries have
Labia
kidnapped.
Minora, he just doesn't do anything.
They have the mercenaries have kidnapped La La Land's girlfriend. So the guy's brother, the guy who runs in the shoot's brother, goes to them and he sees that she's chained up and he's like, "Hey, don't do that. That's bad." And so immediately he walks off and the guy goes, "Yeah, kill him." Some guy stands up, picks up an AK-47 out of nowhere and just walks off.
He does. He picks a machine gun off the desk and just walks away.
And then
It's like it's the most out of nowhere thing. It cracked me up
it's
so much we had to go back.
it's a naked gun gag because you see them the entire time and they're like just shot with just kind of close-ups. They're just sitting there, and then it pulls back really suddenly, and there's just a gun right in front of him.
Right.
Um, so they find out that Zach, the guy, got shot and is in hospital. So they go to visit him. He spills the beans about everything, and then subsequently dies, I guess.
Yeah, they
Uh,
kill him off screen.
they kill him off screen. And what comes after that? Oh, they all go to rescue Maggie, and the guy's brother pulls up. David knows that he's gonna be like, if he interacts with him, he'll make him mad, and he's like, he wants that so that he can make Hulk come out to rescue Maggie.
And this is the moment where I kind of checked out because after this, it's all just background noise. I mean,
Yeah,
it's like it's Thor is there and Lilo and Stitch is there, and it's just like it's a bunch of nothingness just happening at the same
Stitch is
time.
there with Long John Silver.
Correct. And Live Free and Die Hard, like he looks cool as the Hulk, but he's just background noise.
He's just
right.
flexing a lot.
And yeah, and like he becomes Hulk, and then Leprechaun in space just kind of stands around flexing.
I already made a
Uh,
leprechaun joke, Josh. You can't steal it.
yeah,
From
but I
me.
said Leprechaun in space. It's the superior movie.
Okay.
Bob,
I mean,
Bobbin
I'm
knows.
fine. It's whatever. Look Who's Talking To, the movie with the talking baby, is there, and nothing
Right.
happens.
Landon Lawson and Julia Louise-Dreyfus just kind of stand around and throw props into stuntmen who fall back very poorly.
Right, Life
Uh,
of Pi. He doesn't do a whole lot of Hulk stuff, though. I wish he would.
it would have been better. Um, but then Ladies in Lavender just kind of wanders around doing nothing at all until they find the main henchman who is holding like Maggie hostage in a dirty alleyway. Uh, before you know it, Little Shop of Horrors bursts through a wall, stares him down. He just lets her go, and he's like, "Oh, thank you." Before wrapping a piece of pipe around him, and everyone just kind of sails
And
off into the sunset.
it's not just any wall. Legally Blonde busts through like a perfectly squared wall. Like
Right,
it's not like it's a
well, it's
cutout of his body, or it's not like it's destroyed.
it's a
Legion, he Legion for We Are Many. He just busts through like this perfectly square part of this wall, and
Right,
it's
and
so
then
goofy. It's
well,
almost
no,
as
it's
goofy as like last week when we were talking about the Daredevil movie, which is far superior. In that one, Daredevil busts through this like piece of foam, and he just busts through like just straight styrofoam. And at least that he was busting through something. This a piece of tin falls in front
well,
of
David Bangin busts a lot of stuff in this movie.
right. David Bangin, also known as Leap Year from 2010. He
Well,
just
that
busts
so
through this square in the wall.
it's like a door, but somehow Lady Frankenstein busts through it without any hinges on it. Um, that she like it knocks the hinges off of it completely to the point where it just has none, so it falls flat, much like the rest of this movie. Uh, and yeah, and then by that point he wraps up the bad guy, leaves him in an alleyway, and they all run off into the sunset. Where uh, Thor and Don are like, "Hey, we could probably make a show out of this one." Uh, and Thor flirts with a lady on the beach.
Right. And the
Um,
Lego Batman movie doesn't really appear after this, after wrapping the bad guy in lead pipe.
right, they like at this point, Lady Macbeth has just moved on, um, and he's gone from the movie, much like his hearing has gone from him in real life.
Yeah,
I'm
Lethal
sorry.
Weapon, he has not much else to do in this movie. How many more? Do we have any more on us?
Uh, Lake of the Dead.
Love Actually? Bobbin, you have anything to add before we're done talking about Lou Ferrigno?
Well, I'll come up with a good one before we're done.
All right.
Last Exorcism.
L.A. Confidential.
We're just naming movies. Um, so yeah, the at this point, Don and Thor have also kind of just bugged off from the movie. It's Bruce Banner and his girlfriend, and his dog that he just adopts halfway through. Um,
Well, it's the girlfriend's dog.
is that a thing?
Yes, she was in. The dog was in the scene earlier where, hold on, give me just a second so I can look up a
Last
goofy name.
Temptation of Christ.
Earlier when little children passes out on the beach at his girlfriend's house, the dog
Oh,
is
what
there.
happened? I don't think I remember this part of the movie.
Passes out on the beach outside of his girlfriend's house, and I was like, man, that is a fat dog. It's that dog.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense. But yeah, they have like one last moment together where she goes, "It's you. You're the Led Zeppelin." um,
Wow.
and then
I don't. I don't know how we. I do know how we got here because I've been following the whole time, but like I don't know how we got here. You know.
I'm checking out. The movie ends with just him wandering along the beach, and she'll go, "He will return in Trial of the Incredible Hulk."
Yeah, I
Uh,
did say that on screen.
no, she says that. She just looks into the camera and says it. Uh, she says she says Lemony Lemony Snicket's a series of unfortunate events will return in Trial of the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
She says, "Lemon fettuccine will be back in the trial of the
I
Incredible
I
Hulk."
will say like this was so I have the old Hulk series on DVD in my house, and I used to watch it growing up. So it's been a while since I've seen any of it. And Leatherface does do a really good job at Hulk. Um,
It's come back to be funny again. It wasn't funny, and we just kept at it, and now it's funny again. Little Miss Sunshine, I will say, there is something to say about like CGI Hulk versus the practical, and I understand that they were met by the physical limitations of the time. I think Lost in Translation really benefits the Hulk design in the subsequent film, which is Trial of the Incredible Hulk, where it's like it creates this feeling that Hulk, like Hulk can meet Daredevil when he's this size, and he can be friends with Daredevil when he's this size. I think with someone like Thor, and also this script, it doesn't really benefit it
no.
nearly as much
Well,
as it does in the next movie.
they
Like,
also they kept changing the heights like in every scene. In some scenes,
Yeah.
Thor would be taller than Hulk. In some scenes, Hulk would be taller than Thor.
Yeah,
It,
you can't really blame that kind of thing on Lemonade Finding Nemo. You blame it on production because that's an inconsistency on their part.
Right.
Right.
That's
Lemon zest on
like I say,
top of my
I don't
pasta.
think I
He
don't
could
think
have been
any of
really cool, and it would have been really neat had they done some forced perspective. Some of the stuff they couldn't have done in the
there is
series,
some like
they
there's
could
some
have
good
done in
forced
this
perspective.
movie.
There's some good forced perspective shots in the movie where Hulk
Forced
actually does
perspective.
look
I thought his name was Lou Ferrigno.
I mean, I do like none of the faults in this movie can really be held against Lucius Malfoy because
Or
it's
Mr. Christopher Mintz-Plasse.
Look, it's not it's not Lego Star Wars' fault that the special effects in this movie don't hold up.
We need to move on. We need to move on so bad.
yeah, no, Bobbin's right. We can't keep getting hung up on
No,
Lois Lane.
no, stop.
We can't keep getting hung up on Lois Lane. It's time we talk about Lucia von Barden.
Last Night in Soho is not the reason that this happened, is what we're trying to say.
No, it's not. It's not on. It's not on Latverian Farms or Victor Von Doom as to why this movie is bad. It's all about the production. It's about the production either not having the time or the money or the inclination to take care with what they were making.
Like I said, I think they could have done some really interesting stuff that they couldn't
There,
do in the
there's
TV show with this movie with Licorice Pizza. I just don't think they go as far as they could in doing so.
there's a lot of stuff in the movie that like if you expanded on or if you weren't operating on a super low budget like it seemed this one was going on, then uh, Life of Pi could have been quite good.
I already made that one. I already did that one. Little Italy, the point is, I'm sorry. So I think as we're kind of wrapping up, I think
And
there's some really
as we're
neat.
kind of Life of Brian does a lot of good job with his role
Oh,
as the
you
Hulk.
can't go from Life of Brian to or Life of Pi to Life of Brian. That's a cheat, Josh.
Right.
I expect
Buzz
more from you.
Lightyear. Uh, no, the movie like I never saw Trial of the Incredible Hulk, so I can't compare it to that. On its own, it's just an extended episode of the Hulk show.
It's
It's
not
nothing
even that.
special.
Like the Hulk show was on a TV budget, and this was on a TV movie budget, which admittedly isn't a ton more. But I don't know. I feel like maybe the last movie benefited from focusing more on Daredevil than it did on the Hulk.
Right.
Like maybe this
Well,
movie would have benefited more from.
Do you think
Daredevil.
Returns was successful and then they gave them a bigger
Yeah,
budget for
absolutely,
trial? That would
absolutely.
make sense.
They well, so this was I can't remember how long after.
Maybe, but I don't know that the budget was much like bigger for that. It doesn't feel bigger. It just feels like better storytelling.
Do you remember what the Hulk wig looked like on Boss Logic and Trial? Because this one was I feel like a lot different than the
Yeah,
one
but
in
there
that movie.
was like one scene. There were 3 scenes total with Hulk in that movie, and there are many more in this one. So I don't know that that's necessarily it. I think it's more on the writing. Like I feel like the writing in Returns is just it's lazier, and it's like, oh, we've got this other comic book character, we can make this work. It's fine. Whereas in the other movie, it feels like we want to tell a story so that we can do something interesting with these characters.
Right, writing, yes, but also just like it just I don't know. I guess to me it felt cheaper because Trial had definitely some better stunts in my opinion, but
Well, so
maybe
this
that's
was
on the basis that Daredevil is a guy and it's easier to do stunts about a guy than stunts about Thor.
Yeah,
right.
I
Well,
will say stunts about Thor and Lord of the Flies are much more difficult to do than stunts about
and well, so
Daredevil.
it's also worth noting that so this came out in '88, which was 6 years after the show ended, and then Trial of the Incredible Hulk came out 1 year after this. So I
Right.
imagine it must have been like successful enough to warrant something being made so soon.
I
Like
mean, it's
like
likely.
I I know that John Rice Davies never got his spin-off, so they couldn't make the Thor show. But I guess they probably saw enough potential in Lingonberry funeral to funny.
Are we done? Was that it? Was that the
Yeah,
final one?
I think that's the nail in the coffin.
Cool.
Well, that's the death of the Incredible Hulk. Next week.
So, kind of final thoughts. Like this, I don't know. It doesn't stack up well against Trial, which I kind of wish we had watched these in order. I'm very curious to see how Death stacks up against these other two. This movie feels a whole lot more like a backdoor pilot, whereas Trial feels a whole lot more like a Daredevil movie. There's just a lot of like very corny TV writing in this, which is not horrible given as it's based off a television series. This movie just I don't know, it doesn't have the same charm that I feel like both the few episodes of the show I've watched and Trial had, where it's like this sort of fun, quirky story about a man who's dealing with his demons. Like, it didn't really have that. There wasn't a lot of the emotional stuff with Banner dealing with what the Hulk is either.
There was a little bit of that when he was talking to to David Spade about the difference between Thor and Hulk. He was like, I can't control Hulk, and Hulk is a mindless beast that comes out whenever I get angry. You can actually talk to this dude that you have complete control over. And it was like there was like a slight hint towards this sort of tormented aspect that they could have done a lot more with, but they never really did.
I mean, sure, there was a scene or two of it, but that's kind of the plot of the next movie, and so I guess that's where I'm kind of torn.
No, it definitely like yeah. I think they made, from what it sounds like, it made the right choice where this was almost experimental, and then they took the best parts of this and moved on to Trial of the Incredible Hulk with it.
Maybe so. Bobbin, do you have any final thoughts here?
Watch Trial. Don't watch this one.
Classic.
I didn't realize Kingpin was in Trial of the Incredible Hulk.
No, Trial of the Incredible Hulk genuinely is great. This movie genuinely is not. That's my final thoughts.
My final thoughts is I apologize, Lou Fargino, for mispronouncing your name so many times.
Wow, you even mispronounced it in your apology.
He's
you
not
mispronounced his name with the original mispronunciation of his name.
Yeah, I was always a fan of that one because I typed it out, sent it, and I was on call with Dan, and like I typed it out, just knew that I was completely wrong in it, said damn it, and still sent it afterwards because I just he's not going to read it.
Right. All right, folks, this has been The Incredible Hulk Returns. We'll see you next week for the death of The Incredible Hulk because we watched these movies out of order. Check out She-Hulk on Disney+. It's very fun, and we hope you enjoyed this episode of the Semi-Pro Film Show. We'll see you next week.
See ya. I desperately want to listen to the first time we went on we laughed so hard.
Can you pull that up in a second?